Hello everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Thursday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first on the hazardous weather graphic, we've got wind advisories out here for the Alaska Range, mostly west of the Tok Cutoff, actually through 6 p.m. Saturday, for winds to gust as high as 60 miles per hour. Again through Saturday, and here to the west into the northern Kuskokwim Valley, and that's mostly over toward the Alaska Range, looking for winds to gust to near 50 miles an hour, but that'll be tapering off later tonight, and so this portion of the advisory here will probably end this evening or overnight tonight, while the remainder of the Alaska Range is forecast to stand under the influence of that wind advisory with those 60 mile per hour wind gusts through Saturday or until Saturday evening. Looking at the breakup map here, there's a breakup front 6 or less miles upstream from Circle, and then there's another one down, I believe, toward Tanana on the Yukon River here. Otherwise, the Tanana River, mostly open, an expanding area of mostly open water, continues to expand, and some open all the way down again to all the way over to Tanana, as well as south here, of course, the Susitna Valley rivers, some open there with the Kuskokwim. The ice has gone out at McGrath yesterday, and so the Kuskokwim River is just mostly open now, or open all the way out to the bay there. And for the satellite imagery, you can see a pretty good break here through the central interior as this mass of cloud shifts off to the north-northwest ahead of this next one rolling up in across southern Alaska. And very nice day, warm temperatures there over the interior, eastern interior, with temperatures reaching as high as 77 degrees at 3 o'clock this afternoon at Eagle. That's a warm spot in the state. Contrast that with 23 degrees up at New Ixit. Otherwise, looks like some sunshine breaking out here over the Kobuk Valley on into portions of the Seward Peninsula, as well as up there pushing in toward the Noatak Valley, but lots of clouds out here over the southwest part of the state, associated with a low pressure area that's tracking northward, actually crossing the Alaska Peninsula this afternoon, and that front bringing rain and gale force winds, Kodiak Island, Alaska Peninsula, on up into the western Gulf of Alaska. Front kind of breaking up here a little bit as far as the cloud and precipitation shield goes, and then back to the west, mostly just looking at showers with upper level low dropping southeastward back through here, and then just some clouds out toward Chimney with pretty light winds. Southeast coast here, not a bad day today, dry, a few isolated showers up here in the north, with the rain roughly close to the Yakutat area, and that gets heavier as you head west, a little more continuous here along the eastern North Gulf Coast, where Cordova picked up 3/4 of an inch of rain since midnight, and Pilot Rock had about near half an inch of rain. Kodiak had a little over half an inch of rain here, and some moisture, rain, light rain, maybe higher elevations, mixed rain or snow, or just snow here, of course, in the Alaska Range. But some of that moisture working northward, becoming lighter the farther north you go. Could be possibly isolated showers developing along the eastern Alaska Range, but quite windy through here. Delta 64 degrees with south winds gusting over 40 miles an hour this afternoon there in that wind advisory zone. And then again, the break here with the central interior areas, and pretty good up along the Arctic coast. VFR showing up there with just most of that mid and high level moisture, not much down in the lower levels. And then some scattered showers here back out over the western Aleutians, north winds gusting, could be as high as 40 miles an hour out there this afternoon. And then rain from the Alaska Peninsula up along the south side of the Alaska Aleutian Range, I should say, or the southeast side into Kodiak, and then back up into mostly the Kuskokwim Delta, dry northern Yukon Delta, on up across Norton Sound. And for tonight, front will continue to push northeastward, and the precipitation field with it gets a little more diffuse and hit and miss. Mostly upslope mountain areas will see the most precipitation, except for the North Gulf Coast, south flow off the Pacific there. That'll keep it wet tonight, the entire night, but Kodiak, rain ending and becoming just isolated showers during the overnight period. Rain back on the increase with this slowly northward moving low center coming across, that's crossing the Alaska Peninsula now. By 4 a.m. should be about in this location here at 977 millibars. Back to the west, winds, but not as strong out of the north, maybe gusts 35 miles an hour, 30 to 35 at the most there. Just isolated showers, Adak and Atka. Light winds and dry for the far western Aleutians. In the Panhandle, increasing rain on the north coast tonight. Increasing chance of rain, say from Juneau on up toward Haines, Skagway, and the Klondike Highway. And just kind of an increase in the clouds there down to the south. And some isolated showers along the south slopes of the Brooks Range there. And that's about it over the northern interior, except for possible fog and flurries on the eastern Beaufort Sea coastline. Otherwise, staying dry here in those gusty south winds. Again, wind advisories there for the Alaska Range. And then for the Friday forecast, this front pushing eastward here, and again, really probably no precipitation on the north side of the Alaska Range through here. Then pick up rain chances again in the upslope areas toward the Brooks Range and also back across the Koyukuk, northern Koyukuk, Kobuk Valleys. Chance of rain, Seward Peninsula, in across Selawik, maybe Kotzebue. Otherwise, probably drying out up along the northwest coast, western Arctic coast with offshore easterly flow. Still a risk of some fog and flurries there for the eastern Arctic coastal areas. And then low pressure, again, really not moving too fast now, just south of Nunivak Island or west of Kuskokwim Bay, but continues to weaken there, 988 millibars. New center again forming up here. But the trough extending southward, rotating around that, keeps shower chances in for the Perbilofs, and a little breezy with showers to the eastern Aleutians, unsettled for the Alaska Peninsula, scattered showers Kodiak Island. Better chance of showers there from, say, Dillingham to Togiak. Could be actually some steady rain, ridging, holding out over the western Aleutians, but expanding its influence to Adak and Atka, so we could see some sunshine with light winds during the day tomorrow. And then looking ahead, or actually the southeast coast, got chance of showers in the south, otherwise periods of rain on up to the north, heaviest from roughly Port Alexander back up to Yakutat. And then for the Saturday outlook, that front actually breaks up here, pushes off and dissipates. The southern part holds intact somewhat and actually becomes a warm front right through here, the low pressure area just off the chart there. So moisture streaming up along that keeps a chance of rain there through the central panhandle. Best chance along the coast, and dry to the south of that and milder with scattered showers to the north. High pressure at the surface here tends to dry it out over the eastern North Gulf Coast, maybe the Copper River Basin, but an upper level trough back here to the west with one vorticity max coming in across south central Alaska. Mostly cloudy, showery, low snowfall levels. Showers here over the western interior as this low persists just west of Cape Newenham and continues to weaken, though, down to 999 millibars. So winds not a factor at all with this system, just surges of moisture rotating kind of in a pinwheel around that low center, and maybe a chance of rain or snow central Arctic coast with a little bit milder temperatures. And this system really having a hard time pushing into far western Aleutians, maybe late in the afternoon Saturday or Saturday evening, that possibly, well, definitely probably in the afternoon Saturday, there'll be an increase in the winds out toward Chimianatu, but the chance of rain also later in the day, but that probably holding off until evening, and then it'll probably slide eastward Saturday night and into Sunday. High pressure here, light winds, maybe some sunshine again for Saturday there for the Adak and Atka area. Partial clearing, maybe some clearing for the eastern Aleutians as well. Still a risk of a shower, and a little bit better chance of showers there for the Alaska Peninsula area. But again, up toward Kodiak, with this trough here, scattered showers, best chance in the morning, tapering off in the afternoon, and then showers up across the Kenai Peninsula all the way up to the Talkeetna Mountains. Won't be much elevation at all now, fall in the form of snow, a little bit cooler air mass coming in with that. But north of the Alaska Range stays dry there through the Tanana Valley. And again, those wind advisories, gusts 60 miles an hour, continue till 6 p.m. on Saturday. Looks pretty dry here in the northwest coast areas, and going to the low temperatures for tonight. Lower to mid-20s, or mostly lower 20s along the Arctic coast. Mid-20s, you head in toward the Brooks Range, and you get into the lower 30s. South of the mountains, lower 40s. lower to mid-40s, Tanana Valley. On down across the Copper River Basin, mid to upper 40s for the lows here, south central Alaska. 30s, upper 30s to near 40 along the southwest coast there, especially around King Salmon and the Alaska Peninsula. 30s for the Aleutians, mid-30s at Pribilofs, lower 30s St. Lawrence Island. And for the highs tomorrow, back into the, into the 60s, probably losing the 70s, possibly, here over with the moisture in front rotating northward there, so looks like a good 10 degrees of cooling for the Eagle area. We're still rising in the lower to mid 60s here, and upper 40s to lower 50s, south central Alaska with the clouds and areas of rain. 50s for the Panhandle, 40s out here to the west, and near 30 up along the Arctic coast. And for the lows the following morning, mid 20s for the Arctic coast there, kind of a warming trend going on, and mid-30s for the Berks Range to lower 40s, Yukon Valley. 40s now all the way down to the North Gulf Coast. 40s for the Panhandle, mid-30s for the Pribilofs and the Aleutian areas with lower 30s there, say Point Hope to Shishmaref, but Kotzebue lows in the mid-30s, upper 30s for Kobuk. And the highs in the afternoon for Saturday, again, continues to cool here over the eastern interior with highs in the mid to upper 50s. Lower to mid-50s here, south central Alaska, 40s in the Aleutians, and 50s in the Panhandle.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Aviation graphic here, the first one, flying weather for tomorrow morning, IFR, all along the Arctic coast. Marginal here, western central Brooks Range, across, roughly close to Kotzebue Sound, or just to the west there, down to the north coast of the Seward Peninsula, Shishmaref, for example. Good VFR, central interior northward across the eastern Brooks Range. Big batch IFR here in Gulf of Alaska and right along the coastline, Kenai Peninsula, on down to close to Sitka there with VFR farther to the east. And for tomorrow afternoon, you've got IFR now over toward the border with marginal VFR covering much of the southeast coast, VFR holding there down toward Dixon Entrance. Marginal back along the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound. Occasionally marginal there, Kodiak Island, actually not too bad for tomorrow afternoon. Area of VFR here over the southwest interior. Marginal for the Seward Peninsula into the central interior and eastern Beaufort Sea coast, eastern half holding IFR, western side better, becoming VFR. And then IFR here in a zone along and off the southwest coast. For Saturday morning, another band with next system coming into the western Aleutians there. Otherwise, IFR along and off the southwest coast, actually inland a ways here. Possibly some marginal VFR into the southern Kuskokwim Valley. But IFR up across St. Lawrence Island, Bering Strait, and along and south of the western Brooks Range. And IFR there, eastern Beaufort Sea coast. VFR to the west. Good here, central interior VFR conditions, Copper River Basin and areas as well, except for the mountainous terrain. And Cook Inlet, Susitna, Mananuska Valley, good VFR. Saturday morning, marginal for the Panhandle. Then for the afternoon, IFR mostly restricted to the central north coast. Marginal VFR over to the border. But if you look down to the southeast, Stewart, Hyder, Metlakatla, Net, and Ketchikan probably will be VFR for the afternoon. Marginal VFR, eastern Bering Sea. IFR, say around Gamble. And then a couple of zones of IFR here trying to push in and eastward across the Aleutians. Anatuvik, VFR becoming marginal, same forecast for Adigan, downward trend to marginal VFR in the afternoon. Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR. Rainy, marginal VFR, windy, same forecast, as well as Isabel. But Mentasta, you'll have clouds, but the ceilings will be above that marginal VFR threshold. And for Tanita, marginal VFR becoming VFR. Afternoon looks to be VFR, overcast skies, but VFR variety. And then for the Portage zone, marginal, and Chilkoot and White, IFR. Freezing levels tomorrow, 68,000 feet here up over the north and northeast quarter of the state with 6,000 right down to the Alaska range. Cooling off to about 2,000 feet here down toward Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, and 6,000 feet over the southern panhandle with looks like 4,000 feet there right across the Copper River Basin. Icing, occasionally widespread rime icing here in the northern panhandle. Otherwise, light to isolated moderate along the North Gulf Coast in that zone lifting northward and northwestward here, all the way out to the Bristol Bay area. Another batch up here to the north. And for the jet stream, strong low here, again, that tracking northward. And a trough, though, down to another one. So deep trough here, southwest jet, 140 knots. Falls back to about 90 knots as it tops the ridge crest here, but right into the eastern North Gulf Coast. Northwest jet sailing southeastward here, about 120 knots over the western Aleutians. And for the 9,000-foot winds, have this low tracking to about this position northward by tomorrow afternoon, mid-afternoon. 25 to 40 knot winds with us at 9,000 feet here, coming right up into the southeast interior, actually south central Alaska as well. See 35 to 40, and good winds coming into the northern panhandle at this elevation. 10 to 15 up to the north, northwesterlies about 25 wrapping back in around, but a narrow band of that stronger wind, ridging lighter winds from about Adak on out to Shemya. And for 3,000 feet, south to north flow again, a lot of moisture flowing up, gusty winds as well, up to 45 knots there right into Togiak Bay or so, 35 Alaska Peninsula, 25 Kodiak, and 20 to 30 knots here, maybe 35 over the southern part of the state, 20 to 25 for the Panhandle, lighter out west, lighter up to the north. And turbulence-wise, moderate chop pretty likely, especially for small aircraft here from the northern Panhandle, North Gulf Coast, Coast Range, south central Alaska, back down into Bristol Bay. And after the marine forecasts, I'll be back, or after the break, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
Virgo.
Welcome to Stargazers. I'm Dean Regas, astronomer from the Cincinnati Observatory.
And I'm James Albury, director of the Kika Silva Pla Planetarium in Gainesville, Florida. We're here to help you find your way around the night sky. Hey Dean, you know what? I found that being an astronomer has its advantages.
Oh, you're telling me. I mean, between the paparazzi and all the fame and fortune, I can barely keep up.
No, not that. I mean, when it comes to astrological advantages.
Astrological advantages?
Sure. If you ask most people what zodiac sign they're born under, they can probably tell you. However, as astronomers, we can show people where their zodiac sign is in the sky. Let's show you.
So, my birthday is December 18th, so I guess that would make me a Sagittarius, right?
Yep, being born in early December, you're considered a Sagittarius, and people born in late December are Capricorns. To determine your zodiac sign, you take the location where the sun appears against the background stars.
If that date is your birthday, the constellation the sun is in would be the one associated with your horoscope. But the sun is in Capricornus on my birthday.
That's true. However, in Western astrology, the tropical zodiac is used, which more closely corresponds to where everything was positioned coordinate-wise 3,000 years ago. Due to Earth's 26,000-year top-like wobble, the sun is in the preceding zodiacal constellation on your birthday.
Interesting. So, what's your zodiac sign?
Well, I was born in late August, so that would make me a Virgo, which is what our show is about this week.
Excellent. Let's check out your constellation. The constellation of Virgo is often associated with the Greek story of Demeter and her daughter Persephone. It tried to explain why the seasons change.
Persephone was the only daughter of Demeter, the goddess of grain, agriculture, and fertility. Unfortunately, Zeus's brother Hades, the ruler of the underworld, fell in love with Persephone. So he kidnapped her and took her to the underworld to be his wife.
Demeter didn't like the idea of Persephone becoming the queen of the underworld, so she made all the plants on Earth wither. Zeus worried that humanity would starve to death, so he made a bargain with Hades and Demeter, and Persephone would spend 6 months in the heavens with Demeter on Mount Olympus and spend the other half of the year in the underworld with Hades.
This pattern of Virgo's appearance in the sky coincides with the changing of the seasons. Virgo is visible in the evening sky early during spring and summer, when flowers and crops are in bloom. However, in the fall and winter, when Virgo is not visible in the evening sky, everything withers and goes dormant.
All right, let's go find Virgo in the sky. Okay, we got our sky set up for an hour after sunset any night this week facing east. To find Virgo, use the Big Dipper as your guide. Simply look to the northeast and you'll find the 4 stars that mark the bowl of the Big Dipper and the 3 stars that mark its handle. By tracing an arc with the stars in the handle, you will run smack dab into the star Arcturus.
Then, if you continue drawing a straight line away from Arcturus toward the south, you'll run into Spica, the brightest star in Virgo. Spica means ear of wheat and represents a stalk of grain in her hand. And speaking of star names, Virgo has some really pretty star names.
That's right, James. The star just west of Spica is Perima, and the star just north of Perima is Menelava. Perima is a binary star system over 38 light years away, and Menelava is also a binary star system that's almost 200 light years away.
The star west of Perima is Xenia, and the one north of Menelava is Vindemiatrix. Xenia is over 260 light years away, and Vindemiatrix is over 109 light years away.
Lastly, the star to the east of Menelava is Hezi, and the brightest stars furthest east are Sirma and Rigelawa. Hezi is 74 light years from us, Sirma is 72, and Rigelawa is just under 60 light years distant.
So there you have it, a very popular constellation of the zodiac, easily visible in the sky this time of year.
And it's easy to find when you
Keep looking up.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Today's sea ice analysis showing not much left here in the Bering Sea, just some here on the north coast of the Yukon Delta mostly, and to a lesser extent on down the coastline, north or south side of the Seward Peninsula, and then some stuff over in here. Up to the north here, Pollyanna on the western Arctic coast, open water yesterday, actually started new ice filling it in more today, and it looks like the ice pack will drift to the southwest with continued slow melting going on for the next several days. And for the coastal water forecast here off the southeast coast, south coast lightest winds south 20, 10-foot seas, small craft advisories, the remainder of the coastline there 25 increasing to 30 knots out of the south. Lynn Canal southeast 30, gusts 45 knots. Southeast 25, small craft advisories for Stevens Passage, Clarence Strait southeast at 20, with those seas running at about 4 feet. Much lighter winds in store for Saturday there for Clarence Strait south at 10 with 2-foot seas. And light winds, but with those 11-foot, 10 to 11-foot seas, small craft advisories still here on the south coast, as well as the north coast, even though those winds are going to be down pretty light from varying directions. South 15, Stevens Passage, south 25, losing those 45-knot gusts for northern Lynn Canal. And for Cook Inlet, south winds 30 knots, seas 10 feet north of the Forelands, pretty good there, and 9 feet south of the Forelands. Also 9-foot seas, 30-knot winds for Kamishak Bay, south 25 for the Barren Islands, and southwest winds at 30 with 15-foot seas there for the western North Gulf Coast. And for the first day of the weekend, Prince William Sound, light southeast winds, seas only 2 feet, 15-knot winds here for the North Gulf Coast, 20-knot winds for the Barren Islands, and winds coming down to southeast at 20 for Kamishak Bay and also southern Cook Inlet, and down to 15 knots north of the Forelands. And for Bristol Bay, it looks like gales tomorrow, southeast 35 knots, 40 knots southwesterlies on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. Pacific side, we've got southwest 25 from Castle Cape to Sitkinak Island. Those go south at 25 knots. And then that pattern also exists across Kodiak Island, Shelikof Strait. So for Saturday, south winds 20 knots here for Kodiak, and also west-southwest of Sitkinak. Light winds now, Sitkinak, Castle Cape, Bering Sea side of the peninsula, southwest 20, south winds 25 knots for Bristol Bay. And light winds out over the far western Aleutians there, 15 knots out of the south, northwest 20. Right across the central Aleutians, Adak and Atco with 8-foot seas into toward Nikolsky, and the eastern Aleutians westerly 20 to 25 knots. And for Saturday, those drop off further to 15 knots and 10-knot winds now for Adak and Atco. Pretty light, laying down really nice here in Nikolsky on over to Adak from the south and southeast at 10, southeast 15, then east winds 25 in response to that slowly advancing system off to the southwest. And for the southwest coast tomorrow, east 40, northwest 30 for the Pribilofs, north 30 St. Matthew Island, small craft advisories north of Nunivak Island, but only 15 knots for St. Lawrence Island. And for Norton Sound on Saturday, southeast 20, otherwise 15 for Norton Sound, or for St. Lawrence Island. Northwest 20 for the northern Bering Sea to north of Nunivak Island, southwest 25 knots. They're blowing right into Kuskokwim Bay, west 20 for the Pribilofs. And for the central eastern Beaufort Sea coast tomorrow, brisk wind advisories, 25 knots on the central coast, increased to 30 knots there for that eastern zone, and west 20, east 20 for the western coast here. Cape Beaufort on down, just 10 knot winds for the north-northeast. And then for Saturday, Wales to Cape Thompson, southeast 15, and then east 15 from Cape Thompson. East winds all the way up, and they pick up to 20 knots for the central coast and 20 knot winds to Demarcation Point. Then for tonight, rain continues North Gulf Coast. Behind the front will start to lighten up and just scatter out to maybe a few showers, or probably ending for Kodiak. Rain with the main low center here, Bristol Bay, western Bristol Bay down into the Alaska Peninsula. And rain kind of breaking up mostly in the upslope areas of the mountainous terrain here, and that's spreading into the north coast of the Panhandle. And for tomorrow, rain, northern central Panhandle, chance of showers south, definitely wet Yakutat, chance of rain throughout the day for the North Gulf Coast, unsettled with this front up here over the northern interior, and also unsettled with that system out in the west, and that continues on for Saturday.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.